not only about the drills. If there's no chemistry, if there's no emotions, it's not going to happen. The learning happens a lot better when there's emotion involved. It's not about the license per se itself. It's about the talent. I have a driver's license, and Verstappen has a driver's license as well. But Verstappen is a much better driver than I am. I go really often to the United States, and believe me, I've seen talented coaches, but they have to be passionate, and the culture has to be there. We in Croatia always stated, there won't be any development if the refrigerator is full. I would install the competition with the promotion relegation. Other than that, it's going to be a pond rather than the river.
Hello, coaches. Welcome back to another Modern Soccer Coach podcast. Big interview. This week we are joined by Romeo Jozak, who is currently technical director at Saudi Arabia, but previously has worked as technical director at Croatia and has been a leader in youth development and player development over the last 10-15 years. He's done some unbelievable work. I've wanted to get him on the podcast for a long time. So excited to get him on here. We start talking about player development and the conversation moves very quickly into the United States and the player development models here, how we can improve it, what we can do. Some unbelievable stuff and some very strong opinions about the landscape over here. So I think you're going to really enjoy this. Before we start, please make sure you like, please make sure you subscribe. If you enjoy it, please share it with your coaching community as well. The more shares we have, the more likes, the more comments. All the engagement helps build the platform and helps us get guests like Romeo on. Also, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any more coming up. We've got our next in-person interview coming up next Monday, so don't miss that. It's a big interview. You're going to really enjoy it. Thanks so much, as always, for the support. Here is Romeo. Enjoy. Romeo, thank you so much for joining me today on the Modern Soccer Coach podcast.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Really excited also. Thank you.
Obviously, Croatia over the last 10 years have really surprised and been an example of you can do a little bit more with less, perhaps, in the player development space, and they've been leaders in this and taken the world by storm. What's been the secret?
I mean, obviously, the question I've been asked a lot these late years, being in the federation, being in Dinamo for so many years. A lot of people, obviously, everybody knows Croatia did what they did in the two last World Cups. However, for example, not many people know that in the cycle 2013-14, we were literally the only nation on the planet outside, like Argentina, Spain, Germany, you name it, literally the only participating in all three World Cups in that cycle, 13-14, which is U17, U20, and the adult World Cup. So nobody. That means, again, at that time, I joined federation as a technical director, and then having pretty much the overview and the whole layoff of generations of all the age groups that we kind of focused on. It was really something what I kind of hoped, even with the experience that I had or didn't have at that time, that much, hoped we were going to actually get to the point where all these things come together when you actually get a little older. So right before the Russia in 2018, 2017, I actually had an interview, one for the Americans. I think there was your colleague. I said it's going to be next year or never, because everything was leading to that actually everybody was growing and getting more mature. It takes some time. The best age for the football performance is between 25 and 29. So most of the national teams, if they do something big on the World Cups, their average of their age is between 26 and 29, 25 and 29. And we were just here with the quality, with the experience, with the still hunger, with the I would obviously need to be lucky on the tournament performance. But I was hoping we're going to do that, because I know how many, honestly, between us, how many head coaches have been fired before even when Luka Modric was playing and all these other guys together, before actually Dalic did what he did in Russia and later on what he did in Qatar. So it was the whole process of 7 coaches being literally dismissed because they didn't produce what we were expecting to produce. In South Africa, we ended up, we didn't even qualify. In the 2012, it was Poland and Ukraine. We got knocked out in the group phase. 2014 got knocked out in the group phase. 2016 in Portugal Euro, we got out of the group, but we got knocked out in Portugal on eliminatory. on the round of 16, and then Russia came along with the same age, with the same group. We did what we did. So it was a process. It just wasn't a lucky strike. It was a process of the development. Again, coming to the 13, 14, where we participated in all the World Cups, the 17, United 20, and then the adult one. I was kind of hoping and foreseeing it's going to pay. Come at some point to actually get that done on a serious event as World Cup was.
The process of change is obviously a really, really tough and complex one. Well, when you went in as technical director, what did you see as the biggest aspect of the culture or the environment that you needed to change?
We have one thing that, for example, people might say it's a disadvantage, but I see it as an advantage. For example, we're a very talented nation, and talent is inevitable. You cannot ignore it. Why all the best sprinters are coming from the Jamaicas and Trinidad and Tobago, probably not the best coaches are there. It's something about the talent, right? Why all the Chinese ones are so talented in ping pong and stuff, why Mexicans are. So talent is very serious component, even the most serious, obviously. And we are a talented nation, even though our numbers are dropping seriously as a population. We've been 4.5. Now, as a Croatia, we're 3.3, which is actually a serious problem for the government overall. But one of the biggest advantages we have, first of all, being talented. Second of all, we're a small country, and literally the best kids stick together and play together. Whereas in the States, I come, as you say, I know you fly to the States quite often, and there's every once in a while a super talented kid here, and then another 100 miles around another one, and then another 100 miles, another one. For them to stay together and compete together to fulfill the demand, as you know, to have the quality within the team, to have the actually subconscious pressure that the guys can train and subconsciously being opposed to and pressed upon against each other, is something what we have in the city of Zagreb, for example, with 100,000 players only. And then again, the quality, because it's a literally one line of tram, you get there and you can actually form those academies that all the best talents play together, other than the coaching, other than the passion that they have, other than the quality of the players. It came to the point where we, as 3.3 million, do what we do. So somebody was going to say, listen, there's only 3.3 million of you, but we have such a congestion. We have such a good quality of talent and the luck to be working and training together, all of these guys, picking them, because this guy is just around the block, another one is 2 blocks away, the third one is 4 blocks away, and you use the opportunity to actually for these guys to play and train together.
Let's start there. And obviously I've finished your book, the development curriculum book, which I thought was amazing, and I'm interested to see the kind of evolution of since that was written, where you're at. But I want to start with the early age groups, and that's 6 to 8 age range, and it's something that's, again, as you're probably aware, you've been in the States for quite some time on your visits. It's a mass participation level here, and as we start to grow and progress through the age groups, more and more kids drop out. What do you think in that age group that coaches, clubs have to get right from the environment and then also from the technique and the work component?
I don't think it's when you have to look the way again you ask me a question. I'll be honest with you, out of the respect and everything. It's not only about the drills itself and the training process itself. I call as a mathematical approach. That means you have something, you want to transfer it to the kids, and then the kids are supposed to actually pick it up and get it. Which, if there's no chemistry, if there's no emotions, it's not going to happen. So it has to be emotional environment where kids, how even psychologically and scientifically, the learning happens a lot better when there's emotion involved. And as long as there's no emotion, obviously it's going to be impossible for them to remember. That means the environment are actually just, getting the kids on the field, doing the drills, not having, as we just said a couple of minutes ago, not having the density, not having the quality within one team. The subconscious positive development environment is not going to pick it up, because obviously the coach himself, he cannot create only per se. He cannot create environment and actually make it happen in such a positive way overall. I know I go a lot to the States, and people try to do it, and with a, I would say, lack of general talent to artificially do something so fast. Only, don't get me wrong, with 2 training sessions a week, if 2 training sessions a week, as I was once in Canada a long time ago, and there was a hockey. There was an interview I also had with the guys, and then they asked me, listen, they had the I don't know if we spoke about it before, that was the outdoor season, the indoor season in Canada because of the weather. And they played soccer only in the outdoor season, which was 3 months long, and then the one training session and 2 games per week. And they asked me, listen, coach, how do we become a football nation? And I said, listen, you have three months of playing soccer outdoor, which 1 training session and 2 games. That means you have 12 training sessions a year that you want to do something in. So it's obviously mathematically the numbers in U.S., most of the clubs, U6, U7, to my knowledge anyway, with 2 training sessions a week, it's not enough. Also, talent is not there. Also, whenever there is a talent, there's serious talent someplace, but it's unique. It's completely discredited and separated from the density of the whole group overall. And it's very hard for the coach to actually be able to do something in the delivery. I know people are trying overall. The country, however that sounds crazy, the country is too big to control it all and to put it all in one place and actually have the quality, center of the quality at once, which I know they can do it in Kansas City, they can do it in Los Angeles, they can everywhere, but it has to be quality in one team actually training all together all along.
Yeah, a lot of variables there for sure. Let's stay on that. That's a very fascinating topic there on chemistry and emotion. How does someone generate that, or how does a director look to scale that with 10 coaches? Can you do that?
I mean, there's even in the book, I everything was done out of my experience. You know, finding the personality of the coaches when you want to have the coach with the pro license. Even me now asking for the coaches working in Saudi Arabia system where I'm a technical director. It's not about the license per se itself. You know, it's about the talent. There's player is talented, and it's talented 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we know pretty much all know what these criteria are. But the coaches, how talented they truly and actually are. I go really often to the United States, and believe me, I've seen talented coaches, but they have to be passionate. The culture has to be there. It is going to be hard. You know, money. We in Croatia always stated, you know, there won't be any development if the refrigerator is full, and you know it from England and European environments. You know, whenever there's no hunger, whenever there's not a need, and I'm not saying everybody's rich in the United States. I know I'm not saying everybody's happy, but usually the most talented ones are the hungriest ones, and they don't have the opportunity to be, first of all, to be trained by the good coaches. Second of all, be all together. Third of all, which is amazingly important, is compete. So let's say you have this criteria that you actually get together, you have a good team. It doesn't matter Los Angeles, South Los Angeles, but who are you going to play against? You know, we have here, even now in Saudi Arabia, we have a good situation that, you know, even though country is big, but luckily we have a lot of good academy, a lot of good clubs, a lot of good societies actually have a competition, which I know in the United States really lacks on the moment. And then when you said people, you know, as numbers and years goes by, kids drop out because they feel they don't possess the technical quality. They're lacking. They see themselves. You know, they come to the home, they say, Mom, listen, I learned this, I learned that, I have that. They feel confident. When they come to the stage of 14, 15, 16, when the puberty kicks in, they see don't have the quality, they drop out. The most talented ones, mostly, to my knowledge, go to Europe because they want to continue. And obviously the college system also, however helpful it is, it's also this helpful to actually make it for the serious pro level. And the way I see for the future in the States is going to have to be centralized, it's going to have to be controlled 100%, and it's going to have to be ensured that the most talented kids are training and competing all together. Otherwise, there won't be any luck. The individuals are not going to make it. It's a team sport. It's not an individual sport. Actually, we're going to have to respect these things.
All right, coaches, we'll take a quick break here. It's getting to that stage of the season where tournaments, postseason play, playoffs, all that great stuff, the seasons are wrapping up. So it comes to a point where, is there anything you can do for feedback? Is there anything you can do for coach development? Is there anything you can do for staff development? We've got some great opportunities here at Modern Soccer Coach where we've got the analysis course. We're also starting up another segment of coach mentoring where we take a group of 20 coaches through the processes of analysis, game model design, feedback, IDP work, all that great stuff. 5-week program. We will be releasing the information of that in the next week. And also coming up if you want to send over your game model, if you want some feedback on your team, if you want an outside source to look at it. We've got an exciting new option at Modern Soccer Coach that we're going to release over the next week. So again, if you're finishing up the season and you want to improve something, or you just want to look at a different opinion, you want someone to take a look at your team and do some video with you and get a different opinion, head on over to modernsoccercoach.com/analysis or send me an email at gary@modernsoccercoach.com and we can set it up. Thanks so much for the support. Back to Romeo.
Great topic, individual sport and our team sport. And I think we battle with that over here a lot, with obviously the tactical, revolution or whatever it is. A lot of tactical information is in the space at the minute over the last 5 years, and it's come into coach education in a pretty big way in the US, which I know you're aware of. But then there's also, it seems to be over here, this battle between technique and tactics and how to get that right and where that sits in the continuum. You've written about that there in the book quite extensively.
Honestly, it's a simple. I don't even know why people make such a big deal out of it, to be honest with you, because listen, how many times you've seen you have an amazingly talented player at the age of 18. When I say talented, I mean technically developed and technically completely done and complete. And then he's tactically bad. And then who is going to be that brave to cut him because he's tactically bad? No, you're going to teach him. You're going to teach him tactics at the age of 18, 19, 20, because he's technically well developed and he can use his knowledge, his tools to deal with the tactical problems. And in reverse, other way around, how many times you've seen the guy's tactically very well at the age of 18 and he cannot compete with a serious soccer, and then you cut him. And then you sleep calm, and because this guy is never going to be able to compete at a serious level because of the technical knowledge that he doesn't possess as opposed to tactical. So let us not waste literally time in the young ages up until 14, 15, even 16, bothering ourselves. As we all know, technique is very, very correlated with the coordination. Coordination is very correlated with the puberty. Whatever we do, we're going to do mostly up until the puberty as a technical level overall. And even I've seen a lot of friends, a lot of academies at the age of 10, we play 4-4, you go there, you stay there. They're losing time with tactics at this age group. And then when they come to the 17, they realize they're missing the basic tools. And I'm going to be presenting now in Chicago in a conference, in a United Soccer Coaches Conference now coming up in January. And, every second question I get is, coach, we're missing fundamentals. And then people go and deal with the tactics at the age of 10, 11, 12, 13, never mind earlier, which is completely unnecessary at that age. Tools is the crucial solution to the problem. If they have technique developed, if there's a tool to be actually able to direct and solve the tactical problems in the field, is going to be so much easier. And literally, if you have a talented player that is fully developed technically, and you start from scratch tactically at the age of 16, you're going to be well off and have like amount of time in 3-4 years to teach him everything you want to teach him, because tactics is not such a deal, especially for some position, to actually get it done and to use and to waste time in the ages before. That's why if there's still debate on that, then honestly, I don't know why people do that. Probably because they have a struggle in dealing how to develop technique per se itself rather than tactics. And then they go into I want to be the big coach and I'm going to be dealing with the tactical thing at the age of 12, which is completely unnecessary.
Oh, you've just nailed it. That is why I think people do struggle with that concept, is because teaching technique is really, really overgeneralized or maybe undertaught over here, and something that, again, that's a skill, whereas it's not just setting up 20 people in pairs and passing the ball. You talk about in your book about the differences in technique, elementary, dynamic, functional. And I thought, this is the conversations we need to be having.
Yes, it is. Obviously, we have to go back to the talent again. I mean, I live in Spain now. I'm from Croatia, and it's a talented population. Obviously, there's always a debate, and I was a part of these debates. A couple of years ago. What goes before decision making, or the rondos, or the individual development, or the isolated technique. Everything has a scientific logic and background explanation in the brain. So if there's already as a talent, a skill in your brains, meaning a talent, that means you don't have to waste time on that, and you can actually go ahead and apply it as soon as you can, like you do in Spain, like you do in Brazil, like you do in Croatia. But if there's not, and in the States, unfortunately, on a great scale, it is not, because every once in a while there's a super talented kid. Because I've, speaking about the talent, people, they call me every once in a while. I have this talented kid from U10 from Canada, talented. And again, I really had the luck to see the talented players in my life. Not only Luka Modric, a lot of these guys really talented, and a lot of these talented ones, super talented ones, not making it. Not making it. So why didn't he make it now? I ask myself at the age of 52, listen, Romeo, you want to go back 20 years ago? And then you see, listen, how come this, for example, Alen Halilovic, who was an amazingly talented player, who got signed by Barcelona at the age of 16, who was 17, who was supposed to be, when Messi finishes, he was supposed to be then there. And actually, he stayed in Barcelona for 2 years. And then all of a sudden, at the age of 19, he saw, and he noticed he was missing something to actually become a big player. And he was signed by Barcelona first team when he was 17. So that's a talent we actually want to be speaking about. And he didn't make it. So speaking about the talent over there, about the technique, about the tools, ignoring and I would say understating the technique. Do we have it sufficiently enough, or no? The guy scores 4 goals in the U11s and whatever XYZ league, and it's going to be enough for him to be a serious player. It's not. He has to be pushed by what? By his same level colleagues or friends or companions that he's going to be training with, and the better competition, being pushed every single day on and on and on. So the U11 or U12 or U9 performance, no matter how good it is, it's just a state of his development. It's not a goal being achieved. So he has to be aware, listen, yes, I have a talented kid, but what is next more? So the level of his pressure of his head has to be above his head a little, to be constantly every single day jumping one day. That's why late developers, as opposed to early developers, have a better condition to actually make it happen, because whatever they do, they have to do with their brains, because the body doesn't help, because they're late developers. So if they sustain, if they train, if they survive in the environment based on their brains and technique rather than the body only, obviously one day body's going to come up and catch up with that, and they're going to be actually sufficiently good, because all their life they've been training being undervalued because of the deficiency of the body that they had. For example, when I was a technical director in Croatia, most of our friendly games at the age of 14 internationally, we played against the United States, because my colleague at that time, Jim Morehouse, who was technical director there, and we played, and I'm telling you, the U14. So the first U14 international matches of Croatia that we did was against the US. And I'm telling you, we have been smashed 5-0, 6-0, 4-0, 4-0, 5. Why? Because of the physical dominance of the United States population. I don't have to say, big, strong bodies coming, kids playing. You cannot catch them on the line. They're too fast, too big. So U14s, we were generally losing 5-0. In the U16s, it was 4-1 already. At the U19s, it was 3-3. U21s, we started beating them. Why? Because we were late developers focusing. I'm speaking generally, don't get me wrong. I don't mean to, but it was a selection, because in U14s, listen, the U17 World Cup is the World Cup of the physical dominance primarily, per se, not only technical dominance. If not, then Nigeria and Mali would not be in the semifinals every single year. How come they are every single year? Because of the physical dominance. Yes, football quality, but physical dominance also. Germany, that won the World Cup 2 years ago, the last one against France, everybody was the top possible older age group that they could have had, and they were the guys that played already senior football already. That means technique per se has to be done for the long-term achievement of the goal, not necessarily for winning the U13 competition or U14 competition. And that's why the question, go back to your question quickly, depending on the environment of the talent, if the player possesses technique, it's a dynamic, and he is already dealing with these things as a talented kid, you're going to use him to put him in a serious environment to actually apply it and make a decision-making serious. But if there's not, and I know whenever I come to the United States, 9 out of 10 examples are the basic problems of the development and lack of skills, and kids have to go into the process with elementary technique, getting it in the motion, which becomes dynamic, and then applying it into the problem solving, which is a functional one. and then you go step by step. But everything comes back, as my colleague Tom Bayer likes to say, everything comes back with a culture and environment, which and where in Saudi Arabia you don't have to push, because kids still play on the street a lot. In Croatia, kids still play on the street a lot. In the United States, unfortunately, not as much. And we have to do that on the field in the organized training session per se.
All right, coaches, we're going to go into a slight bit of audio issue here with a little echo for the next 5 to 10 minutes with Romeo, but stick with it. We eventually fixed the problem, but I tried to fix this segment on the recording as well, and we couldn't, but I would have taken it out, but it's probably some of his strongest opinions. So I think it's really, really valuable. Stick with it, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it is, and we get it fixed for the end of it. So it's not going to stay on for the whole rest of the interview, but just stick with it. Appreciate the patience. Here we go.
You've got a good grasp of the culture over here. Let's just say I give you a blank check and say, all right, let's come in, fix this. Romeo, get the US. So what would you do? Like, how would you fix that?
I'd say it's a serious question. I already had a couple of talks in the past with the United States Soccer Federation, even potentially coming there and work. It was just too busy in Europe, and it was too serious. It is unbelievable, that for example, 10 years ago, everybody was telling me, U.S. is going to catch up overall because of the talent, and every single day there's people coming. What's his name? Pulisic, he's Croatian in the background. I spoke with him when he was young, and with his father, with his grandfather, and then again, he chose U.S. over Croatia, which is completely fine, even though I wanted to bring him personally when I was a TD there. He was, at that time, he was born 1998, age group. That means he was U17, U18. When I was there, actually, with our guys, he didn't want to, which is fine. But then again, those are the examples of the talent coming from abroad, even in the U.S. per se. Have a lot of talent as well, but lacking the technical, the development, positive environment which we speak about right now. They come over, and this is the same thing what they do with the Saudi players right now, looking for the already well-established soccer environments, which obviously Europe is. And listen, every structure, what I would do, honestly, and I know it's not going to happen ever probably again, I would install or invent the competition with the promotion relegation. Other than that, it's going to be a pond rather than the river. If you try to say the river has to be, you don't jump in a boat, you're going to be blown away, you're going to go, and there's no pressure, there's no developmental pressure. And when you speak about the pressure, you come to the point of results, how important a result is actually in the academies overall. And then you actually have to teach the kids to be responsible with the decisions that they make on the field, because the mistakes they do, they're going to be very pricey in the future. They're not pricey in the future because whatever they do in the MLS, don't get me wrong, they're not going to have to pay for it. They're not going to get relegated. Nobody's going to get sacked. They will get sacked, but not because they actually lose 5 matches in a row. You're going to get sacked because of the maybe higher goal, whatever that is in the area. I'm being really positive, but I want to try to answer your question. Like, how do you do and change? It has to be competitive. When it is competitive, it is under pressure. When it's under pressure, that means the mistakes or the good things you do have a different value as opposed to when there's no pressure. And there's no pressure because I'm not going to get relegated or I'm not going to get promoted. And the subconscious feeling of the pressure inside, which is the key of the element of the game, people that play the game on that level, people that actually coach the game on that level, they understand what the pressure means. And when there's no pressure, there's no serious development. When there's no pressure, there's a comfort zone. And you know yourself, there's a comfort zone, there's a development zone, and there's a panic zone. We don't have a development zone. We don't have a zone that steps out of the comfort zone, because the games, yes, it's nice. Yes, it's so great. When you go, it's a super organized league. But listen, if there's 4 of them being relegated, I will ask you the question, how many of these coaches and players would actually consider, and the clubs listen, and then you bring the guys with a tough mentality to be able to cope with the mental pressure that is going to be. So if I was a powerful guy in the United States, that would one thing that I would do. Maybe not necessarily in the senior in MLS, but there has to be a league, there has to be a development, because one of the components for the serious development is competition. Competition means responsibility of your moves on the field. If you don't do it well, you're going to get punished. I don't mean necessarily with a red card. You're going to get punished with a lack of production of the result, or depending on the level, higher or lower. So if there's no competition consequences, then what are we training for? What are we training for? So it has to be some kind of a value of us making and producing and delivering when it matters. And it doesn't matter because whatever you do, you're not going to get punished. I mean, as a league, as a general idea. So ideally, being in charge in soccer over there, we have to sit down and say, listen, people, we have to make a promotion relegation. Otherwise, our kids are going to stay in the comfort zone, or our players, all the time. And you ask this question, the players that play in Europe, in England or elsewhere, or you ask these questions of players that play in MLS. I had a Croatian guy that played 2 years now in MLS. He came back. He says, listen, it's fine. Yeah, it's good. It's spectacular. All the fans, everything well. But there's no blood. There's no real blood that you actually pressure. Physical blood, yes, but mental blood, not. Physical blood, technical blood, but not mental blood. And mental blood has to be if there's a promotion, if there's a danger, if there's a need for you to do something what it matters. And unfortunately, it's not there. So one thing I would ideally try to work on, maybe not necessarily MLS. MLS would come as a consequences in the future, but in the phases of, let's say, between U18 and 23, where actually players leave to Europe, to keep them there, to make it some kind of a appealing for them to stay, because they're going to feel important achieving the goals, not necessarily playing for the LA Galaxy, but actually achieving the goals, winning something competitively that makes sense.
It's fascinating because over here, America internally has the reputation of we focus too much on results. Well, actually, what you're saying there almost is, but we don't focus on consequences. So what you're saying there is the consequence of losing, putting coaches under a bit of pressure there would actually help us.
No, that's an amazingly good question, because not in the academies. When I say consequences, yes, the kids always want to win. They always want to compete, no matter what. So at the age of U7, they're going to compete. You don't have to actually push them and promote them and animate them and force them. Kids want to compete. They want to. But the consequences of not producing and winning in the different ages are different. So let's say U7s, it's man, good job, we move on. And the U13s also. But listen, when it comes to the U16s, the consequences have to be different, because obviously the mistakes you're going to be doing in only a year or 2 year time from that time where you're on right now are going to be much more pricier, because coach is going to get fired. You're going to get sacked. You're going to get benched. You're going to get cut. So everything what you do, you have to teach them to be performing on a serious level, and a serious level has to be the level on the physical and mental pressure, which there is not on a serious level. That's why the mixing, the pressure of not delivering with a result in the academies, I wouldn't focus. Yes, there's always a consequence, but the consequence of not winning at U10 is completely different. It says, listen, buddy, let's go. Next time we're going to do it. Come on, you're going to get a better job. But when you come to the puberty, physically and physiologically and psychologically, players become men, or kids become men, or they're turning to be men. You have to apply the disciplinary, you have to apply the measures of actually them realizing that whatever they do is going to affect the result, and the result is everything. In Europe, result is everything in a senior football, and it has to be everything. I'm not speaking about a result in U19s. I'm speaking about a result in the senior football. So senior football has to be a reward for you to promote and get there with everything you have done, because you're mentally strong enough to actually being able to cope with these things at that level, if you know what I'm trying to say. So in the academies, competing and then making all these rewards, medal, plaques, photos, McDonald's is at the age of 10, because the guy thinks that he has done it, because he doesn't know that at the age of 10, still a long way to go and train to actually make something seriously, which is not U10, which is not even U15, which is not even U19. It's senior football. And they would want to try to, they finished all their goals. I won so many medals, so many goals, so many championships, so many, 15. And the guy's fed up with all this, and he doesn't have a technical quality because he was competing too much to achieve those goals, instead of actually working on a technical level and using and applying them when it matters. And that is a senior football overall. So it's a mix of psychology, which is upside down in some cases.
Yeah, I almost think that we're on the cusp of coaches going into this space. Coach development is going to go, coach education is going to go and give X amount of A licenses out over the next 5 years. And all of a sudden, what you're saying there is we probably don't have enough awareness about getting that call to yourself to say, I've got a talent over here. But in relation to the environment and the technique and the world, it's not the talent. So we need to be working harder at trying to develop or work on that talent. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. Well, talent, obvious. You cannot. It's hard to invent talent. Talent is there or it's not there. Talent is talent. Talent is born, right? So actually work with the talent to find the talent first of all. And I'm sure 400 million or 350 million people in the country, there's 100% much more talent than in one Croatia. 100%. Not 10 times more talent in the United States than in Croatia. But again, in Croatia, we have a density. We have a lucky situation that everybody is just behind the corner, and these kids train and work together. They're not exposed to the big things yet, because I'm not going to say there's a hunger. There's not a hunger per se, if you know what I mean. But there's a need, there's a passion, there's a talented passion, and also there is a reward of being promoted competitively. If you actually achieve a goal, you're going to go on. If there's no feeling of promotion, if there's no feeling of reward in the league, that you actually put some extra pressure, extra mental pressure, emotional pressure on it, it's going to be impossible to actually deal with the same thing I do with the Saudi right now, actually taking the best talent in the U16 and the U17 national team, taking them to Europe, because locally in Saudi Arabia and in Asia, competing wise, they're not exposed to the serious football competitive pressure. And here we play against giants of the football development, and on a weekly base, they feel the pressure, and by actually adapting to the environment of the competition, they take and level there and raise their level of the quality, which is the point overall. And then when we come back to Asia, we're going to be 100% dominating, surely to the extent which hopefully will be sufficient enough for us to make it something big, especially in the light of Saudi Arabia hosting the World Cup in 2034, and that is the investment in the kids, investment in the team on the long run. But U.S. was always. I mean, I'm a half U.S. I have a green card holder. I go there. Actually, I fly tomorrow to New York City. I have a couple of meetings in New York. So it is something. What I'm always. But then again, I have one body. I have two kidneys, one stomach, one lung. So I can't just share myself and clone myself. But I'm always keen to help as much as I can and actually work with a lot of people over there, with my friends.
Yeah, it's really, really interesting. Like in your book, what jumped out to me, you said about the prerequisites. You wrote about the prerequisites, fundamental prerequisites for development, and you had 5 of them. And one of them is internal competition within the team. Another one is external competition within the league. So there's 2 out of 5 is competition, and you've talked about the lack of competition in the United States.
Exactly. I mean, you can first 3. You can have a talented player, you can have a talented coach, you can have a talented good curriculum, but if there's no internal competition, and when I say internal, I mean subconscious. So coach comes in and he says, "Listen, do this, do that," and kids are going to do it. But it has to be subconscious that the kids feel. If there was you do webinars and you do coaching education online, if there was 20 people alongside. For example, at this hour right now, doing the same with the coaching the population, and then listen, I mean, other 19 guys are going to take over my people, my audience. You will probably be exposed to a little pressure. Listen, I have to deliver better, because I'm not the only one. There's another 19 colleagues do the same, a webinar with somebody, with some other Romeos or some other guys at the same time. How am I going to attract these people to come and see me? I have to be good. I'm not saying you have to be good now, if I'm trying to say, but let's say today you are doing what we're doing and it's fine. But imagine at the same time, 20 of them doing the same thing with 20 people in the world, and you know it, and they internally know it, and that would put extra pressure on you. Listen, I have to be better. I have to be good in order to beat other guys, for me to be listened or actually having the audience, if you know what I'm trying to say. So the same thing, good coach is going to do good thing with the player, but if the players feel there's another 20 little lions next to them fighting, the kids just subconsciously adapt and they want to get better. And imagine doing this every day, and imagine doing this every week and every month and every year. It just subconsciously gets an extra value of the training, which coach cannot per se only do. And also, other than that, external competition, which these guys compete with the similar guys, making it also subconsciously confronted each other. There is something what you cannot described, Australia has a big problem with that. US has a big problem with that. Competition is a huge component. And again, I know I have millions of friends, academies, United States, and yes, there's finals, there's regionals, there's nationals, and every once in a while. But it has to be 45 strong games for the age group U15. It has to be 55 strong games for the age of U17. It has to be 65 games for the age group U19, and there's not. There's maybe 5 of them or 7 of them, if there is, depending on the quality where you're at. First of all, lack of internal quality competition, and then lack of external competition overall. So everything we do, or you do, or we overall in this football over there, until we fix those subconscious, when I say subconscious facts that you cannot control, it just come by itself. You actually put the quality all together. The quality altogether being put together is by itself is going to create internal competition in between the cells, which other than that, it will not. So it's going to be if those strategical, I call them strategical decisions, are not going to be met and done, and then based on the strategical ones, the operational ones, it's going to happen that because of the numbers, because of 350 million people, there's always going to be enough good talent. This talent is probably going to sooner or later go to Europe, and this talent in Europe is probably going to be sufficiently enough to have some kind of a national team altogether being put. But is this national team going to be dominating the world? Not 100%. Are they going to be the ones what they could do with 150 million people with the talent that I'm even sure that the United States has more talent than Spain, that the United States has more talent per se, not developed players, but talent per se than England or France or Croatia or probably even any country in the world, talent-wise speaking, initial talent-wise. But this talent, it's something which you have to be at the age where it's supposed to be done, has to be picked, has to be done, has to be worked on, and has to be delivered to what it has to be delivered. So it is very hard to actually have expectations where the actual process is, as you know, there's a goal, end of the pathway, but pathway is the process, the key to actually make it happen at the end of the day. And people think, it's easy to make a lot of academies in China, in Asia now. Listen, we want to make if you don't fulfill these things, sooner or later, you're going to have to be forced that this individual talented player coming to the age 15, 16, they're going to be still young enough to be impacted by the serious environment, but also old enough to be independent and fly together and live together. Because if you move them to Europe at the age of 12, they're not going to stay. They're going to survive. They're going to go back home because they're going to get homesick. Because this is the fact that it is. But actually make it happen. And that's why we brought the U16 from Saudi Arabia national team, talented people, national team, the best squad of 22 people, putting them in the best possible competition, which is today U16, the strongest tournament on the planet actually we have. So it is something what we hope for. Even with these things being done, we are still securing serious percentage of a chance for to actually develop a player, which is not 100, which is close to 100, but it's not going to be 100.
There definitely is an inferiority complex. I think over here people do feel as if it's not where we want it to be, coaching community included. And then you're reaching for, the Brazilian, the Spanish, whatever methodology. But there seems to be, in what you're saying, there's almost seems to be more similarities between the US and the Saudi Arabian culture, where you're trying to build it and the investment is at a really, really high level. Do you think that would be an option for US to get more teams over here, or a travel option, or what's your thoughts on that?
Again, Saudi Arabia, 35 million people, talented nation, really talented nation. And what they do now lately, it's an amazing investment in all the fields. It's what my job is to actually try to invest in the young football players, which, by the way, football it's a religion, speaking quote unquote in Saudi Arabia. And actually, they want to do, and they want to promote the country also through football, because they're going to be hosting the World Cup in 10 years, right? So we have, which is amazing. We have a 10-year time to actually prepare a team that's going to play in 10 years, right? So it's something what is uniquely happening, and not many times I've heard that. Every nation was trying to do. Listen, in 10 years we're going to have a World Cup, and then let's prepare a team for that. This is something we made, and again, I'm being privileged and happy to be a part of that, and I'm sure we're going to succeed. I can't promise we're going to win all the games in the group stage in the World Cup, but we're going to deliver. We're going to play well. We're going to be there. We're going to be hosting it, and we're going to be, if we're all going to be luckily healthy and alive, we'll see what the life brings. But generally, the idea is there, and we're trying to fulfill it. So And if you compare the talent of Saudi Arabia with the talent of United States, there's a 10 times bigger people population-wise, bigger country at 35 million, as opposed to 350 million. However, the talent in the United States is there 100%, maybe equally as in Saudi Arabia, but spread out. And that is keep coming back to this all the time, and that is the big problem. That is a huge problem because there's not a subconscious pressure, and there's in Riyadh, even though Riyadh has 6-7 million people, there's always those little neighborhoods around, and there's quality being confronted with another quality. There's a talented being confronted with another talent, which in the States it's not. And when you're not pressured, again, coming back to your example or any example, if there's no pressure that you feel with being relegated, with being opposed to by somebody, with being taken out of the comfort zone, with just being challenged by the environment or by the organization or by the structure or by the teammate, you're just not forced to do the best out of you. Individual sports are the sports where you actually fight against yourself, against the stopwatch, and it's your personality to do it. But in the football, other than the personality, you have to have a measure on the field that you actually want to be better with. The kids always they want to be better. They want to win. They want to be the opponent. They want to be the teammate. If there's no teammate, then they can't be beaten. And they're going to be fine. Today, this week, I'm going to be fine because coach is good. But after a couple of years, they drop. They see, listen, I'm bored. I don't want to do it and then you move this one to there. And then at the end of the day, they end up being together in some team, but there's no competition. So who they compete against? And say so all these little things are actually important to put it in place. And I think honestly that on the long run, the States is going to be just circulating all around. Everyone's going to be happy. The academies are going to be getting a lot of money. Things are going to be paid academies, paid to play. Everyone's happy, but the actual national team production of the level, it's not going to be there. I think honestly, the way I see it going, it's going to be less and less, not more and more.
What are you doing, or what type of programs? You mentioned there about a long-term plan in Saudi Arabia and with the World Cup 10 years away. What's happening on a coach education level? Is it similar to Europe in terms of getting the licensing more formalized, or what's the process there?
This is not under my little jurisdiction right now. Let's say I'm in charge of the European or international activities of the football players and the coaches. So whatever from Saudi Arabia goes towards Europe, I'm, let's say, coordinating with my colleagues as technical director. So per se, the education of the coaches over there, we have to come back obviously to the legal structure of the knowledge, of the delivery of the knowledge that these people have to absorb, but also coming back again to the talent of these coaches as well. And because it's a football culture, it's really the difference between China 20 years ago and Saudi Arabia is too big, because even now on a random restaurant, random table in China, out of 10 tables, maybe one is speaking about soccer. And in Saudi Arabia, 10 random tables of the guys being U19, there's 9.5 tables going to be speaking about the soccer because of the culture. In England, the same. In Croatia, the same. In US, I don't think so. Maybe more lately, but there's always going to be American football or business or, something else. The cultural effect of this, and Saudi Arabia, maybe I said 9 out of 10. I'm telling you, maybe 10 out of 10, because it's a purely emotional connection with the football, and obviously that is a drive, that is a boost into the energies, and the same thing for the coaches. So structuring, they're very powerful, very influential, very intelligent, a serious nation now dominating the world, and obviously financially being able to do, I'm not going to say everything, but a lot. Preparing for the World Cup, they're investing in something what hopefully is going to be, obviously, I'm assuming the biggest World Cup, because what I've heard, what might be happening in 10 years, the stadiums and the overall environment. But again, my job, and again, it's a pressure that I feel, and I like it because I've lived under pressure all my life, to actually produce a team to present Saudi Arabia in 10 years' time, where everybody was going to be watching, hey, what Romeo and his colleagues did 10 years ago is going to be something what I'm going to be. So hopefully you and me are going to have another interview in 10 years and see how it goes.
Brilliant. Last couple, Fred, this has been amazing. You mentioned their talented coach, and we talk a lot about talent as a players and skillful players. In your eyes, how would you describe a talented coach?
Talented coach, first of all, has to be intelligent. Again, we come back to the talent again, because intelligence is obviously born in quality. You can't be just, born one way and all of a sudden become, I'm not saying being smart, but being intelligent. It means there has to be, you can teach, you can learn, but you cannot, unfortunately, have something so it has to be picked by people to understand. Why? Because coaching is a living process. Coaching is a process that actually changes on a daily level. There's a plan, but there's always a change to the plan. You have to adapt. Adaptation actually makes the intelligence. What is the intelligence? Intelligence is the quality of adaptation in the new circumstances. So whoever's more intelligent, they're going to be faster adapt to the circumstances of the change that are happening. Doesn't matter where, on the street or on the field. And that's why intelligent coaches that have it, and again, I'm not going to say you're going to measure the intelligence of the people. You can feel it. You can test it as a technical director. When you speak to somebody, when you ask him a couple of questions, you're going to feel if the person is intelligent or less. Let's put it this way. Another one, there has to be a passion. There has to be a drive. There has to be something which you, again, subconsciously. And we're going to come back to the same criteria, even as a player. We're going to come back to the reality and to the facts that all these things, as a coach, they have to be genetically born with the guy mostly. So listen, somebody is slow, and there's a coach coming and saying, no, I'm going to be the best coach on the planet, and I'm going to actually teach you how to be faster. A little faster, yes, but you cannot be, if you're slow, you cannot be fast. You can be a little faster, but you cannot be fast. So if you are not as intelligent, no, I'm going to teach it. No. There's always a limit to the genetical component, which is, as we know, in different criteria. 4 to 5 or 7 to 7 percentage of the actual quality overall. But if there's a passion, and passion means drive, and you can feel the hunger, you can feel you can test it by actually taking the coach outside the comfort zone and giving all these hard things under the rain, and you see how much actually the passion at the end of the day he's got. Also, talent of the when I say intelligence, I see the passion and the talent. Talent means he feels it. He understands. How can you describe a talent for painting? What does the guy have in order to be painter, as a talented painter? He has a touch, he has a feeling. So when you actually feel him on the field, other than his personality, which in the youth age groups has to be animating personality, people actually animating the kids, being fun, but actually when I say fool them around with the games, with the different progression of the development of technical development, actually doing it funny, creating, as we said in the beginning of the talk, emotional environment. So kids get connected because amygdala is a part in the brains that actually processes the education and processes the memorizing of something. If it's being emotionally affected, you're gonna stick. I remember now at the age of 52, everything what I had when I was a kid, what was emotionally super good or super bad. Why? Because it was emotionally really strong. So when I was beaten up by my father once or twice when I was a kid, or when I actually got a couple of things, we remember those things. Why? Because they were emotionally, they were literally stuck in our brains. So we have to create. So coaches being animating personality, being chemically, as we said, mathematically, he's a good coach. Yes, I know the drills. I know but there's no chemistry being delivered and transferred from this location to this location because coach is not doing this, or coach is doing this because of his talent. And that is a talented coach. And if all these things are met, and there's a license coming, there's A, B, C, D, whatever you want to name it, there's going to be good license coming. But if he comes with a license because of the knowledge, and check this one out, it's very important. So the knowledge, what is the knowledge? Knowledge is actually coming to my head because somebody was teaching me and I was listening. Okay, fine. And I had exams because at that point I was doing the exam and I got the license. But the knowledge has to come from their heads towards out, not other way around. So if the license is a proof of the knowledge coming from the externally to the coach's head, it's going to be obviously sufficiently good to get a license. But we want to have the coaches that are using that knowledge, functionally applying it into the problem solving. You're going to have it problem be solved if you have intelligence, passion, and talented for the play. And then obviously, based on your personality qualities, are you the teacher, competitor, or animator, you're going to be better or worse coach. It's not easy, but actually in the whole country, it's hard to control it. But in one academy, it's relatively easy to control it because obviously the technical director has the power to do everything, and he can do it.
All right, last one for you. Started the question off saying, you've been at the frontier of player development over the last 10 years, and you mentioned there about trying to get ahead and prepare for the next 10 years. A lot of investment. We talked before the call about a lot of people kind of putting investment now in youth players and trying to create models and around the world, not just US. There's no exact science, but what do you think will be the next frontier? Like what do you think are the things that are going to stand out over the next 10 years when it comes to player development?
I've been asked this question a couple of times already. I'm not a wizard, so it's hard to. But the way I feel it, I will tell you. Let's say one example. A couple of months ago, I was in a search for a coach in the process where I have, and I posted that on my LinkedIn account. You probably even saw it, right? And in 3 hours, I got 600 CVs from all over the place, from Santiago de Chile to Sydney. Right? Why I'm saying this? Because and don't get me wrong, out of these 600. Yes, I narrowed it down to 50 and then narrowed it down to 10 and then narrowed it down to 3 and then we chose a coach. But what I'm trying to say, the football has become a business, a huge business that obviously if you come to the stage, on a serious stage, it's well paid. It's good. It's obviously lucrative. But there's the filtering process of people working in the football is not as strict because I'm not going to say everybody can get a coaching license, but it's not that hard to get it. And with a coaching license, I have a driver's license. And Verstappen has a driver's license as well. But Verstappen is a much better driver than I am. Right? And you have a driver's license. And you have Hamilton, but I think Hamilton is a little better driver. Maybe, I don't know, don't get me wrong, your driving skills. But you have the same B, we have a B license, the same B license. And so by me coming with the driver's license, the same one as Hamilton has, does that make him equally good driver? No. So, and there's a lot of B license coaches on the planet. And again, a lot of them good, but missing the genetical part of the passion, of the intelligence, of the talent, of the personality, everything what he needs to have in order to deliver and transfer the knowledge from here to here. Just by the license, it becomes too simple and too wrong and too false and too risky and too unpredictable. So when you ask me about 10-year time, I'm just hoping the business component of the football is not going to take over so much that the taking advantage of the business opportunities is going to be more prioritized over the actual genuine and normal pathway of the development as it's supposed to be done. Because we cannot forget that to develop a player, it takes 10 to 15 years. Not many people are going to have the patience, nor time, nor organization, as you know well, to wait for 10 to 15 years to develop a player. Because you have a talented guy who is 7, he has to be 20 one day, and that's 13 years. So 13 years, you have to be really working smart every single day for him to maybe making it. Maybe, not surely, maybe. And that has to be done with all these facts we spoke about, with a good coaching, with a good environment. So, so I think the football is going to go into the business component a lot. When I see overall as an image, as a football per se, is going to be faster, is going to be dominant, is going to be technically perfect, or more tending to be more and more perfect. That's why. Why? Because again, as we in Europe, as overall, the prices and the rewards of actually making it happen are going to be better and better, bigger and bigger, even more and more lucrative, and only is going to be room for the best people on the top level. However, getting there is going to be the base is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's actually, until it gets filtered, it's going to be hard to actually come to the top, especially such a big country as US is. So it has to be a lot of work, I would say a lot of old school coaches who are going to be genuinely devoted to do the proper process rather than jumping over the steps to actually making something faster because there's a big money involved. And I see that happening a lot lately. And I really have, I'm careful in my area as much as I can, but it's a lot of these things. I'm trying to, I have a player at the age of 18, talented, coming from XYZ country. He has to come and play, and a lot of pressure to, ways to actually making it happen. And maybe somebody else who is really late developer, who really makes sense, who really doesn't have the opportunity, because those things happen around faster overall. So if we do that as it's supposed to be done properly, with all the soccer or football conditions and criteria being implemented correctly, it's going to be better and better. But we can't just, each one of us, you, myself, everybody, trying to not let those things that are not right happen too fast in the football world.
Brilliant. What a way to finish. Romeo, thank you so much. This was amazing. Loved it.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you.
All right, coaches, thank you so much for watching that interview with Romeo. Let me know what you think. Would love to hear your thoughts on that. Some brilliant views from Romeo. Would love to hear your thoughts. Let me know, either put it in the comments below or shoot me an email, gary@modernsoccercoach.com. Would love to hear from you. Before you go today, please give it a like, and please make sure you subscribe if you're listening to this on the podcast on Spotify or on the iTunes. Please make sure you do a quick review. And both of them, YouTube, Spotify, whatever you're listening to it, please make sure you just spread the word of the podcast. You can recommend it to a friend. That would be huge. The community aspect is massive for Modern Soccer Coach. We really appreciate all the coaches that listen. We really appreciate all the coaches that support the work. Thank you so much for everything you do. And don't forget, next Monday is the next in-person interview. Massive interview next Monday. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss it. Thanks so much, as always, for the support. I'll see you next week. Goodbye.